Learning how to use a computer without hands, basically without typing, has been like totally transformative and very surprising that you can basically not type and almost get the same use out of a computer.
Welcome to episode 32 of Tool Use, the weekly conversation about helpful AI tools that you can use today, brought to you by Anetic. I'm Mike Bird, along with Ty Fierro, and this week we're talking about the way that AI is changing how we interact with computers. And we're thrilled to be joined by CJ Pais, an independent developer and one of the maintainers of Llamaphile. CJ, welcome to Tool Use.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super happy to be here.
Well, we're stoked to have you on. Maybe we can start by talking about your background and kind of how you got into the AI space and how you got here.
I guess computing for me has been something I've been passionate about since I was a kid, like finding PC Magazine laying around in my house, and reading all of them, building computers and going from there. And just knowing that this is something part of who I am since I was a kid. Went to college, got a degree, went to Qualcomm, worked there for a couple of years in modem layer one software. So down in C land and learning a bunch about radios. And then I quit after 2 years, basically to pursue like just following the passion and following the curiosity, and basically been doing that ever since. So as AI started coming out, early GPT was doing some contract work for some companies and messing around with early RAG systems and stuff like that, and have kind of just been following as much as possible as I can, and just playing with all the local stuff, whether it be deploying stuff locally on my own machines or even my friends' machines. Um, yeah, just everything. There's so many rabbit holes to go down and that I've been down, and are just super fun.
And that's one of the best things with software. Once you learn it, you can really apply it through any domain. So you don't have to be constrained in a certain field. You can just explore curiosity. Mind telling us what type of curiosities are you following these days?
Some of my main curiosities, I broke one of my fingers at the beginning of the year, so um, learning how to use a computer without hands, basically without typing, has been one of my main curiosities. And like surprisingly, using Whisper locally on the machine and talking to Claude and stuff directly, both the transcription side as well as getting Claude to write a bunch of code for me, has been like totally transformative and very surprising that you can basically not type and almost get the same use out of a computer without having to type at all. Um, Maybe a little bit slower, but on the whole, like very doable still. And I think that in and of itself is pretty remarkable. Um, there's also been a bunch of stuff around like all of the data that I personally have, and I'm like curious to see just like what can you do with all of this that's like not given to Google or OpenAI. Photos. How do you build stories and stuff with this and using AI, or building web pages and building a smaller web, or making it more accessible for more people to express themselves, or within small communities, and make communities feel something, like feel like something on the internet, rather than it just being like the same Facebook group web page, or whatever, like if I have a climbing group, why is it looking just like a Facebook group web page? It's like quite boring, and like the things that you might tailor in that group, like I think with AI and making that more accessible to more people, um, maybe has a lot of potential just to feel more like home for a lot of these communities in a way, or making your own home, I guess, is maybe more what it's like. So yeah, those are some of the curiosities, and I've wrapping up some benchmarking and stuff because I was running a distributed compute network, and that project hopefully will be releasing next week. So yeah.
It's exciting. What kind of tools are you using for voice locally right now? We use Super Whisper, and there's some other ones out there, but I'm curious what you're up to.
When I broke my finger, I developed my own, mainly because I didn't know Super Whisper existed. And the second part was I wanted to have a little bit of flexibility in terms of if I need to add a feature that they won't support, like I need to be able to have that control over the application. So it started as a Python script, and initially it was just transcription using whisper.cpp or MLX Whisper under the hood. And that was like fine for a bit. And then realizing like, oh, with one hand, sometimes like editing code in line is just like really useful. And so I just like want to highlight some code and like give it to an LLM and have it rewrite it in line. Without having to click buttons, like you can probably do this in Cursor and VS Code, like using Command I or something like this. but like not even having to open up any piece of UI and have it just like happen and understand the context. Like that was really, really important because like keyboard shortcuts like were still like a bit weird. So yeah, I wrote this script that does some of these things and could rewrite emails in the same way or whatever. So yeah, I've built my own tool. It is now transitioning into a Towery desktop application so more people can access it. And I'm basically planning to release it as an open source code base, mainly with the same purpose of like, Super Whisper is great. I think as a packaged application works really well. Um, but if people want to mess with other functionalities that come along with voice and maybe even like it being an MCP client or something like this, I think could be quite interesting. And integrating, a default set of MCP servers within that could be also interesting. So I'm kind of curious using that as just like a little playground. Put it out there and see like what people do with it.
I think that's really exciting. I especially love the fact that you're open sourcing it. When Ty and I were an open interpreter, one cool thing was just being able to use general voice input and then have it run and issue commands and actually like interact with the computer beyond just transcribe. You mentioned code, but like what other type of use cases do you see being enabled by voice that used to be the requirement of the keyboard and mouse?
Oh man, it's like actually a remarkable amount of things. I guess I got a 3D printer recently, so like doing some things like say like creating, whether it be like STL files, going and doing stuff in like Autodesk Fusion or like CAD modeling apps, like AI interactions with those, like without hands is like really hard. It takes forever. So I definitely started using tools like OpenSCAD because it was more programmatic, and it's just like that's the way today. But I think there's going to be like probably a lot more collaboration with AI back and forth, especially with things like voice. And I think there's also starting to be some of these applications. I think KittyCAD might be trying to do this. I'm not 100% sure, but I've seen stuff with Blender and all of this as well. I think, you know, for me, the like physical stuff is really interesting. I also think like as silly as it sounds, just like a better series sometimes is like almost enough. Where like many times I would just open up like an LLM app or ChatGPT or whatever, and like just ask it a very simple question. Like I only need like a sentence back, and like having to open up a full application or go to a website to do that just seems like a bit silly when I could just like press my foot pedal uh, and talk to my computer, kind of a thing.
The foot pedal is such a cool idea. I love the idea of having an extra, basically an extra button that you can press with your feet. That's such a cool idea. What made you think of that? Have you been using foot pedals for other things, or was that just kind of like your first foray into it?
Yeah, I guess it started with like a little controller that I bought just as a button. It's just like a little macro pad. Um, and I just like realized like, oh, this works really well, but like probably there's a better way. And I also sew, so I think that's probably where I got the foot pedal idea, is like my computer being like more similar to like a sewing machine or something like that. um, and also I just thought it would be kind of hilarious if I had a foot pedal. And it actually turns out like I use it way more often than the little macro pad. Um, and like even reaching on a keyboard, it's like I can kind of sit back and just be like, oh, I'll just like stomp on the ground and like uh, have transcription, which is pretty nice.
Is it single press, just like stomp it once and then microphone starts and you just regurgitate into it and then it
It,
is
it it's
transcripted?
similar. I think Super Whisper works like this. I'm not 100% sure, but it's like press and hold. So it's just like it's just a Cherry Amex like key switch in there and like a very simple microcontroller, and it just emulates a keyboard. So you just like press and hold on it, and it basically triggers the same thing. So
That's such a cool idea. It makes me think about like how else. From when you were talking about that, I was like, man, I wonder what a computer experience would be like if it was like the fighter jet cockpit, or you've got all the different foot pedals and all the gauges, and like I wonder what, or maybe there's less of that, and maybe computers of the future are way less keyboards and mouse and maybe all voice. I don't know. I'm really curious where the future of computing goes from here. I love voice and I've been using it. I mean, I probably use it 50, 60 times a day now. Instead of typing, I'll just talk into Super Whisper and have it spit in there. Once your app comes out, I'd love to try it because I like Super Whisper, but I also love Tari app, so I'm curious to try that. But do you have any other interesting ideas on where computing might go?
I think the voice stuff is like very relevant for today. What I'm unsure about voice in the like more broad sense is it's like really good if you're like working in an environment by yourself. But as soon as you like go to a cafe, you're like, this would be like crazy. Um, or something like that. Like, yeah, sure, but like it's pretty weird to just like talk to your computer. At least like socially right now. And I think like something like this, you know, I think brain computer interfaces are like a little ways away, but like maybe it is kind of a glimpse into that in some sort of sense of I think there's probably a meme of it. It's like leaning over a keyboard like seems like caveman like in a way. You know, like why like we're developing like hunched backs as opposed to like standing up straight and tall like Homo sapiens, you know, as a result of like sitting down and being over keyboards. And generally, I think like I hope computing turns away from like you know screens being the primary and like starts to get more into like augmented reality and like speaking of fighter jets like stuff like heads up displays like quite frankly like most of the time I'm using a computer it's like for information use and like whether it be like question answering or like it's like I want to know the surf right now. It's like I'm going to like click a button on my phone and look at the surf conditions. Like that could all be a heads up display. Like that could just come up in the corner and be like, oh, the surf is good at Sunset Cliffs right now. You might want to go. It's like that's how I want a computer to actually be used. Um, and I think that's a ways away. But voice is like an interesting step there because it provides a lot more context generally than typing. I don't know if you've noticed that in your use of Super Whisper, but it's like I can speak much quicker than I can type. So even prompting becomes I give the LLM a lot more context if I'm wanting to build something.
Yeah, and I find even just the way I present the information through a voice prompt is different than typing. It's different for your brain. Couple points of what you said though. Tim Urban, popular writer, he's one of the
Mm,
few people I believe who uses like an Apple Vision Pro consistently, and he says it's phenomenal for that very reason. You can just glance over, see something, you can make things big. Like it's once we figure out how to make AR less isolated and like a VR experience, once like the meta glasses,
yeah.
whatever they're called, are more ubiquitous. Fully agree. One other thing I think is really cool, back in the day, there was this little bar you could put on your desk, and I forget what technology it used, but it would basically detect where your hands are, and that could be a little
Mm,
input. But there's someone on Twitter, Poet Engineer, and she does phenomenal animations where it's all hand tracking and like the hand movement manipulates things. So I wouldn't be surprised if if video becomes a solid input as well, because
yeah.
Minority Report style expanding windows and stuff.
Oh, totally. Totally. I think it makes tons of sense. I'm not 100% the device you're thinking about. It seems like the Magic Leap, maybe, or something like that. I forget. There was some device in this realm that I also remember, but I forget what it was called. Um, I have seen her videos as well, and they're pretty remarkable.
Another interesting trend here too is the Daylight Computer company that does the tablets. Really interesting that they're selling this new like new way to interact with tech, and it's not like a replacement for your laptop. It's not designed to be. It's like designed to be this like a replacement for books. Like you can take it outside, and I actually have one and I love it because I'll go to the park and I'll just lay in the park and sit on my and it doesn't feel like I'm on my computer. It's like it's almost like the one trend of technology is trying to remove technology from our lives and get us back outside and get us back into the real world. And that's where I feel like the VR and things like this might actually come in really handy, where we can go out and experience. Because man, I sit behind my little desk the 8, 9, 10, sometimes 12 hours a day. And I sit here and I look out my window and see how nice it is and wish I could go outside. And I'm like, man, wouldn't it be great if I go on a walk and get some of this work done? But yeah, I don't know. I'm really excited to see where things go. And I hope the technology of the future lets me actually get outside more.
Yeah, I think I actually also have a daylight because the whole concept of like that is very aligned with like stuff I believe in what you're saying as well as like I want technology to get to the place of like as humans generally we get to spend more time outside and in communities and stuff like that. Like hopefully that's like some of the stuff that AI actually enables, you know. Uh, it's like if it gives us more leisure time, like I'm kind of all for that personally. Like I love my leisure time, and if it improves the quality of life for more people to be able to do that, I think like I know how blessed I am to be able to do that, and really, really grateful. It's like I can go surf. Like if I wanted to, right after this call, I could go surf. It's like this is amazing. And like being outside and being able to do those things is wonderful. And yeah, I pushing computers to that experience I think is really interesting, where it gets out of your way. It doesn't like suck you in. It's not like and I think like even social media and stuff like this, like we with AI, we do have the choice of like we can create our own feeds now much easier. Whereas before that had to be algorithmically done by a company to aggregate that data. But can we bring back smaller communities and make our own feeds within those communities? It's like that becomes a lot more possible with even LLMs today. So I think some of that kind of stuff is really exciting.
I thought a lot about AI and community before. Actually, at a hackathon a couple years ago, I built with a team, built like a networking AI. This was like 2022. It was like, GPT 3.5 turbo
Yep.
or GPT 3.5. But it was basically, it just took everyone's LinkedIn profile that was at the hackathon and just threw it through this super simple prompt that was like, who is this person? Make a little profile. And then you have these profiles, and it's like, okay, now match this person with some people in this room that they might get value out of. And it didn't work very well. We placed I think we were third place in the hackathon, which is great. But like, I'm really curious how AI can get people together more. And I think one of the biggest problems right now is like people are just stuck in their houses gaming and, working, and there's all this life out there to be lived, but everyone's so stuck on their computers. And I wonder what kind of role AI can play in this kind of matchmaking thing of like, hey, you might actually just like have fun going out and talking to this person, but you just have to get out and do that. I hope people can trust an AI enough to just take that advice and go talk to someone. Where do you see AI community building going?
Oh man, I I think the like opportunity there is like really big. I mean, it also has a lot of like the more like potentially like scary things. Like, I guess the fundamental question of like, do you want the AI to be like helping you with these things is like a question. But for me, I'm like, if I could like be walking down the street or going to a cafe and like know that there's like people there open to conversation and the kinds of conversations that they are open to, like, and that there might even be people that are like, oh, like like I know you in some way of like you might have worked at Qualcomm or something like that. And maybe in a different department, but like just like that little bit of context like opens up the possibility of conversation that normally like you just have to like stumble into those conversations and like through serendipity. So making the world like a little bit more serendipitous and intentional in some way. I guess the intention is on you. It's like it presents the opportunities and then you can choose like what makes sense. And like same thing even if I was like out surfing or something to be like, oh, this person is like curious about whatever. Like maybe it's like the Roman Empire. It's like cool, like I don't mind like sitting out there. I got 10 minutes to kill like while we're waiting for the next set. Like I'll go talk about the Roman Empire with them. Like whatever. Who cares? Like if it gets me to meet more people and like have better conversations, like I'm all in for that. So um but this does require like I think like a fair bit of like actual back end infrastructure and stuff to do this. And like how do you take privacy seriously in a context like that? I think like that's something that I care about. I think the world has largely maybe doesn't care about privacy. I'm not sure. But yeah, if that's possible to be done like private and securely and like having, your own personal AI like mediate some of these things, like maybe it makes sense. I don't know if that's like too vague, but yeah.
No, I love it. And one of the big benefits from AI in my mind is the ability for it to reduce barriers for actually having computers be accessible in all digital services, including the ones we're talking about here. Because right now, if you're unable to read the screen, if you're unable to keyboard and mouse, you're very limited. I know we have screen readers and things like that, but it's still very limited. So even just being able to make sure everyone gets to the same baseline where we can communicate in the way that we're communicating now, and then further elevate that, it's just going to unlock a whole nother world. There's also the angle where we touched on it briefly last week, where there's like the AI girlfriend boyfriend route and getting camaraderie that way, a little bit of companionship. But if you can use AI to instead be that entity and be more of like the matchmaker, it just really allows a lot of interpersonal communication, interpersonal relationships. So I'm very optimistic for that side of things.
I, for one, am excited to I will just let the AI decide for me. You know, hey, you go meet this person. Yes, chef, I'm on it. Yeah. I love this idea you brought up of like even just knowing people that are open to conversation is
Mm,
fantastic. Like because there's so many people like I'll try small talk with some people and they're just not into it, and then other people talk to on the subway and they're just like wanting to tell me about their life and tell me. And I remember those conversations so much. And it would be what a cool idea it would be if maybe there's some idea in the future with VR that or AR where you can see a green person that's like, this person's open to chat. I'm gonna just walk right up and talk to him. You know, I don't know. That's a really, really cool idea. I would love to just know the people that are open to discussing things with me, and maybe they have like a list of things they're interested that you could start icebreakers with. I don't know. I'm just so excited for the future of AI matchmaking, I guess is probably the wrong word, but just like AI in communities is such a cool concept to me.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm really curious. Like part of it is like selfishly, like if I went to a cafe and like I'm just like more or less hanging out or whatever, like I don't care if someone walks up to me. Like it may look like I'm doing something, but I'm basically just like killing time in some way or the other. You know, like whether it be working or whatever, it's probably like some degree of killing time. And it'd be like cool to have like a nice conversation. You know, probably like maybe I don't want to advertise that to everyone, but like within a certain degree, you know, like probably. Um, because like, yeah, I wouldn't mind a lot of people coming up and just be like, "What's up?" We're like, "Oh, hey, you like surfing? I like surfing. Cool, let's talk about surfing," or whatever it is, you know.
I think another interesting angle here too is the like maybe in the future we'll just end up doing less work because we can just delegate it to AI. I mean, getting towards computer use here, and
Mm,
you know, operator is getting pretty good from OpenAI and browser use, and I think there's definitely a fear element there. There are things that are scary about AI controlling computers, replacing jobs, whatever. But I think there's something more powerful there of if that sort of technology allows people to, you know, automate the mundane tasks so that they get to do the more, you know, people-oriented tasks, do more face-to-face talking, more interesting things. There's something really interesting there. What are your thoughts about computer use? Do you have any feelings towards AI controlling computers or anything like that?
I mean, I just hate using a computer personally. Like, as much as I love computers, like I feel like using them as a means to an end most of the time. Like, I'm all for computers using more of the computer for me. I actually mostly just think that we should be designing interfaces for them to do it themselves better, as opposed to like having them have to have like vision. I'm not saying like we shouldn't have like vision models. I actually think vision models are also very important. Um, but having it like try to like it makes sense for the time being is like you have to like use the system that already exists. But on the in the like broader perspective, like building systems where these AIs can go and like do a bunch of stuff by themselves. And maybe this is why like people like MCP so much to some degree, or just like developing APIs generally that are like more intelligible to LLMs. Yeah, I'm personally all for it. Like if the more I could be off my computer and not on my computer, I'd be much happier, I think, generally speaking. Or like on my computer for like effectively reasons of community or like in following interests or hobbies or whatever it is.
Awesome. Yeah, we've seen things like LLMs.txt pop up,
Yep.
MCP, which is a big one, APIs. They've been around forever, but just making them more agent friendly, whatnot. Do you see any other missing pieces that could help accelerate that type of agent consumption of digital services?
Well, like selfishly as a developer who's used many APIs is just like more open data. I guess like maybe that's it more than anything is there's just so much data that's locked behind APIs or is not available. Um, and better ways for these systems to like authenticate and interact. Like I don't know, maybe I just don't like OAuth, but OAuth is it's great and it's also like a total pain. So I don't know. It seems like just and even stuff that's just like not available behind an API. Like you can't like go use Instagram via an API, as far as I'm aware. Like maybe
Right.
you can contact Meta or Facebook and like they'll give you some special tokens if you pay them a bunch of money or something. I don't know.
One area here I think is missing is like micropayments. I feel like is an interesting
Sure.
thing because like so many of these API services, there'd be so much more motivation to build really strong MCP servers and really strong agent tools if there was like a really easy way
Yeah.
to do transactions. I mean, like fractions of a penny. This is where I feel
Yeah.
like crypto has a place. But like really small transactions to where I could, I don't know, host some server that has really unique, interesting data behind it, and by all means go use it, and I get, you know, couple cents for, or maybe even a half a cent for that type of thing. I feel like micropayments and honestly just payments too is such a barrier for some of these things because you have to set up Stripe or subscriptions, or
Yeah.
I feel like some digital wallet passport where you could go and it could just take that and it could go spend and go do things. I don't know. That feels like a piece that isn't solved yet, like making MCP servers that can be monetized, but
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. I think the micropayments thing makes a lot of sense. And, it's an interesting thing. Like, yeah, crypto in some ways, crypto is like actually very good for this, because doing it within the current financial infrastructure, like it basically doesn't allow micropayments because of fees. Spotify is like maybe like one of the only companies that like kind of does this, and it's because they're the centralizing provider. And whether they're like actually paying people enough, I guess is a different like ethical question. But um, yeah,
Yeah, I like to hate on crypto a lot, but I feel like there are use cases for it. I wish it wasn't all just like greed of markets, but it's not all. There's definitely use cases of
yeah,
crypto that are positive out there, but man, I feel like there's something good there. But yeah, this world of agent communication, man, is really interesting, and I think MCP was a huge first step for this. I feel like we're just kind of now peeking into this future of agents working together and agents just going and using things because I need to use them. It's a really exciting time to be alive. I'm really interested too in just kind of like autonomous systems of like, can these things just go out there and just do it for you, and you know, without, I mean, I think permissions are important sometimes, but I think there
yeah.
are some things like, hey, you know, go make dinner plans for me for the next 3 weeks with my top 10 contacts. Just go do it, book it, send the calendar invite. Like, these aren't things that are impossible right now, but I feel like aren't frequent right now. So,
Yeah, I think there's some stuff that like that too, that there's like social layer and social interactions, that help figure these things out, and unless the model knows you very well is like pretty hard. And also like I guess I maybe right now I just like wouldn't trust it to make good decisions for me personally because I've used enough LLMs. But if it suggested like times and stuff that I could accept, and I think generally, like that I'm like totally fine with. Like if my friend has an open calendar and it could see like when they're not free or whatever, and it can be like, oh yeah, here's a day that works for both of you. Like great. I also don't know how many like people use personal calendars. Like like for myself, like I totally do because it's my work and personal calendar. But there's also a bunch of stuff that never makes it on there because I just like I'll just do it. Um, so yeah, like how much of that is in my head too, and like just the patterns of like being in the world that like it needs to pick up on. At least that's some of the stuff I'm thinking, like curious about, like how does it learn those things?
Do you use anything currently to kind of automate this? Like, I know you have your voice input or your pedal input to activate some things. Do you have anything running in the background or going autonomously on your behalf?
Not on my behalf, no. I mean, I have like my own system that like aggregates a bunch of my own personal data that I put into, and it takes voice notes, images, whatever, and I can like leave a comment on it. And basically like it's just like a playground for me to like experiment with this data and see what I can get out of it, and extract from it, and like you know maybe how I'd want to display that in other forms, like it just being like a raw bucket and being like, okay, LLM has access to all this data, like what can it create from this bucket of data? It's like if I have a bunch of entries about surfing, which I do, or climbing or whatever, is like, can I build a web page for myself basically just on natural language queries to an LLM, and it has access to a bunch of this data that it otherwise wouldn't? And it's like, what would I even want that web page to look like? And it's like, I don't know. This is like kind of interesting. Like what goes on there? What trips go on there? How many times have I been to Sunset Cliffs? Like I don't know. Like like I would love a calendar that just shows me how many days I've been outside because that would make me feel good. So like, oh wow, I'm doing a good job getting outside, or like not getting not surfing a lot, not climbing a lot, not running a lot. Well, this is like probably not great. I probably should do these things.
Yeah, it
So
might explain the down mood or something.
yeah, like just making the computer a bit more intentional rather than it's like that's something that I care about and would want to see reflected for myself. Even like might be cool to put out publicly, but I would love to see that reflected for myself.
I saw an interesting tweet this week that was something along the lines of like they had Claude 3.7 Sonnet and they gave it access to their entire like Slack workspace, their entire GitHub workspace, and their entire like note service or something like that. It was like gave it the access to all these big things and just like let it go. And it was didn't give it any direction. It was just like, all right, you have access to stuff. What do you want to do? Like, just go do the things and tell me what you did. And I thought that was
Mm.
such an interesting angle where it's just like, I mean, that only really works in some cases, and it's kind of a weird thing to think about. But if you can give these things a giant pile of tools and the
Hmm.
permission or the autonomy to go do it itself, it's like that's what you'd expect of an employee. Okay, here's our GitHub. We'll get you onto the Slack. Here's generally what your role is. Now go do your stuff. Like kind of like
Yeah,
a AI employee of sorts. I'm kind of curious how all that plans out, but I think there's giving the. I'm really circling
yeah.
on this autonomy thing, but I think if it has access to these things, then treat it like an employee, let it make its own decisions. And we're probably a little ways away from this, but I don't know. Something interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's the thing of just like they need enough context to be able to do things fundamentally. I mean, we do have limited context windows for the time being, so there's also like effectively engineering for the time being that requires to like put the right things in the context window. Um, but yeah, I like just getting the right context. Like even that is like pretty hard sometimes. Like for like kind of generic stuff or like stuff related to code, it's like pretty easy because like code is like generally pretty open. Like there's like so many things just are code. Um, I think like as software developers, we just like totally live in a bubble to some degree.
I actually wanted to double click on one thing you mentioned before about the intentionality behind using it, because I think there's some degree of intentionality required for how we spend our attention. So obviously, the internet's always trying to like get
Yeah.
your attention, notify you, pop up. We've recently came out with a newsletter, which has allowed us to not have to like scour the news for certain AI articles because it's just consolidated, curated, just right for us. What other ways do you think AI is going to impact the way that our attention is captured, or how we can spend our attention on computer before we get to this, you know, utopian ideal of being able to be outside and be in community and just have the AI operating in the background? What's the intermediate step in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, I can give examples of the intention because like I actually built a project around it, based on this other project that I was talking about where I could just like dump stuff into a bucket. And there was a few intentions that I had set, and like these are like really simple to come up with. I feel like for the most part, it's like very human, and like you kind of just I'm like, oh, tomorrow morning I want to wake up at 6:30, and it's like, oh, I slept in, dang it, like didn't do a very good job on that one. Um, but it's like all of a sudden like all you need is a system to be like, okay, I want to wake up at 6:30 tomorrow morning and text me in the morning to see if I actually woke up at 6:30 in the morning. And like I had a system that could send iMessages, so it's like cool. Like it would just set a reminder in the iMessage system, set a cron job, and be like, "Hey, what time did you wake up today?" It's like, "Oh, wow, dang!" It like really holds you accountable. Uh, and I actually built a couple more. So one was meditation. So I was really trying to like meditate more frequently. And I also built a UI for this as well. But it's just like, oh yeah, like I just want to see like am I meditating? It's like so easy to have that accountability if like this system is asking you back and forth. Again, like in this case, it was just iMessages. Another one was food. Like um, I like cooking already. I just don't always do a good job of actually cooking the meals. So I built another one, which is like, did you eat out? Did you like eat in, or did you eat with friends? Because it's like if I went out to eat with friends, like cool. Like I kind of don't care about like I'm seeing
Yeah.
people. Um, but if I'm just like having a meal by myself, I'm like going out to eat is like, did I need to do that? And like just some basic metrics on that to get like that also built to the UI. All these were UIs that I built. Also, all of them went into the Vision Pro because I wanted to see what they looked like in AR to be like, oh, like how have I been doing with meditation? And having that just like in the corner of my vision, it's like, oh, interesting. As if that was like a dashboard for myself, like it probably would stimulate me to meditate if I hadn't done it in 3 days or something. Yeah. Um, so,
That-
and I think all of these are like quite simple, and like the loops for them are like actually quite small. Um, like maybe it takes a little thought, like how you want to be reminded in a way that like works for you, but it, something like that is actually like quite simple and totally works today. You know?
Productivity is such a great like use case right now of time tracking. And I love this idea of like an AI accountability buddy of sorts, and it's a really cool idea. I've thought a lot about, you mentioned meditation, and it's made
Mm,
me think about like how AI can help with these more um unique use cases like that. And I've thought about the meditation one. I've tried using GPT or advanced voice mode to be like a meditation teacher for me of sorts. Didn't go very well. Didn't go very well. But I mean, imagine that I would love like a spiritual teacher of sorts, like if AI could like be like, okay, so here's the plan for today's meditation. I know part of meditation is to not be structured, but I think some structured meditation and kind of like focusing on specific things. And if afterwards it could ask you like, how was that? What do you want to focus on for next time? I noticed this is where the brain computer interface thing would be really interesting. It's like, you didn't actually do very good in this session, so maybe next time we could play better music or something. I'm
sure.
so interested in this idea. I love the idea of like meditation hooked up to technology. Right now, I mean, maybe that's the point of meditation, is to not be with technology, you just sit with your thoughts. But I don't know, biohacker mind of mine, the tech hacker of mine's like, how can I overcomplicate this and make this techie?
Yeah, I mean, I did the same thing. Like even while I was doing the meditations, actually, like how I was tracking it is I would have a voice note that like started when I started, and I would just like yell at it and be like starting meditation or something like this. Um, and then like I was experimenting with like something of like how to drop certain things as I was meditating. So I would just say them aloud, and then it's like, oh, that went into like the note of something I was thinking about because it's part of this meditation. And then it also allowed me to like kind of drop it and be like, oh, I totally just recognized that I had that thought, and like now I can just like let it be free. And I thought that was like an interesting like combination. You know, did it for a little bit. Don't do it very regularly now, but it is like curious. So
Yeah, and one thing Ty built a little while ago, it's in the Tui's Pip package, is using AI to help you prioritize your day. When you just
mm,
go dump everything at the start of your day, being like, this is what I have to take care of, blah, 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 and help
yep.
you rank it, order it, and almost like coach you through it in a way where it is kind of being like that buddy looking out for you, making sure that you're just getting the second set of eyes on what you're thinking and just being able to get it out and have the world process it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really interesting.
Uses Whisper File too, by the way.
Oh, great. Amazing.
But AI prioritize. The whole concept of that though was like, there's so many things floating around in our brain, or specifically my brain. Like I have a task management system, whatever else, but I feel like most of it all lives in my working memory. And so I'm like, what do I focus on? This, or that? And so I'll just turn on the audio and just complain to it and just,
Hmm.
just let my mind go loose for 5-10 minutes. And it's like, well, there's a lot going on there. Here's what I took out of it. And based on what you're telling me, do this first, do this second. And you could combine these two by doing that. I'm like, wow, I didn't even think about that. Now I have a structure. It's really interesting.
Totally. I have totally experienced the same thing. So I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, really, really interesting.
This is. I feel like that's something that should be in Siri. I love this idea of a better Siri, and I say the idea because the new Siri is not better, or maybe it's a little bit better. But I was so disappointed in Apple Intelligence. I bought the better phone so that I could support it and the whole works, and I don't even use it now, other than using like what I used to for old Siri of setting reminders or whatever else. But yeah,
They super promised and super underdelivered, I feel like.
which is not very Apple of them. I feel like.
No. And I think maybe they will get there someday, but I mean, they're obviously putting a lot of work into AI. It's like very clear. But
Excited to see.
yeah,
All right, one last question for me is do you have any advice to young builders right now, or people that are trying to build apps, or kind of like the vibe coder generation here? Do you have any advice that you'd give being a seasoned developer yourself?
programming became way more accessible to everyone. Maybe not super accessible, generally speaking, but I'll give the advice that I gave to one of my friends who's going to college right now, which is I would not be like trying to become just a programmer right now. That seems like a very bad choice, in my opinion. Because programming will be solved by AI, as far as I can tell. I would think. It seems like it will be solved. But what is not solved is a lot of the other problems in the world. And I think those are much more important. And learning how to use a computer effectively in those domains, whether it be um, biological sciences, maybe even robotics, that's like probably the closest thing to computers is like think outside of the computer is what I would say. It's like if you have an interest in like marine biology or like whatever, like go get your scuba diving license and see how you can apply computers in that domain. Like that's probably like more interesting. The friend I recommended it to, he has cochlear implants and he wants to make his implants better. It's like that is like totally a computer related thing, but like he's one of the only people in the world that will be able to explain like even to a computer how it should actually work, you know? And like that is like taking your fundamental lived experience and like being able to think about it and express it deeply is probably way more important than actually being able to program. And so maybe the best advice is just like learn how to articulate yourself as best as possible and use and play with the AI systems and see how you can refine your own thinking via them as well.
Brilliant.
Yeah, no,
That's great.
stellar. Moving past the computer. CJ, this has been a blast. We're so happy you joined us. Before we let you go, is there anything you want the audience to know?
Yeah, I'm CJ. I like working on a bunch of random stuff. Hopefully I'll be publishing more results and stuff soon. Um, I have a benchmarking project sponsored by Mozilla Builders that's coming out next week, which is called Local Score. It's going to be an open utility for anyone to benchmark their computer hardware, see how fast local models run on it. Um, might have some other experiments for local models and ideas of how to play with them most effectively soon. So yeah, it's just kind of some of the stuff I'm interested in. But yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's been a blast.
Yeah, thanks for being here. We love having you. Great conversations, great ideas. I'm gonna go build this meditation app.
Yeah, please do. I'd love to play with it too.